of truth with clarity and charity.
Heard around the world on your Android and Apple mobile devices.
The Simple Truth, rising up to explore the difficult topics of real life. Join us as we proclaim the good, the true, and the beautiful with the simple truth of Jesus Christ and His Holy Catholic Church through Scripture, tradition, and the Catechism. And now, your host, Jim Havens.
It is great to be back with you on The Simple Truth, where we proclaim the life-giving reality of Jesus and His Catholic Church. We consecrate everything to the Sacred Heart of Jesus through the Immaculate Heart of Mary and the pure, strong heart of St. Joseph. It is Current Events Wednesday here, and our guest today is John Horvat. There is a lot to get to today, but first let's introduce John. He's the author of Return to Order, From a Frenzied Economy to an Organic Christian Society, Where We've Been, How We Got Here, and Where We Need to Go. You can get it for free at returntoorder.org. He's also with TFP, the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, Property, and you can go to tfp.org for more information there. It's also where you can find his great articles that we're going to be going through today. A lot that is worthy of your attention in these articles. And again, we're going to bring you some of those recent topics today. John Horvat, thank you for being with us. How are you today?
Great to be on the show. Always good to be on.
Yeah, great blessing to have you here. And again, much to get to today. But first, it's always important that we begin these current event Wednesdays with the biggest current event of all. We want to remember that today and every day, and that is the number one news story that ought to be reported by all the networks, but is going unreported today and every day. And that is the ongoing daily government-sanctioned, government-funded, government-protected mass murder of innocent children in the wombs of their mothers. These are real people being murdered by the thousands every day and today and every day in our nation, which also means the mass exploitation of pregnant moms in need for profit by the lie of abortion. In terms of the loss of human life, we have at least a 9/11 every day in the U.S. Imagine 3,000 of any other category of persons being murdered in a given day in our nation, and it going unreported by the media and even mostly ignored by the churches. And then imagine if that were happening every day, and you begin to understand something of the insane reality in which we find ourselves. According to a July 2020 article in the prestigious peer-reviewed medical journal The Lancet, we have a global death toll from abortion of 73.3 million children annually, which is more than 200,000 preborn children being murdered worldwide every day. It is essential that we put great effort into breaking through our own desensitization to this massive evil. We have to face reality on this and so much more. We must live, proclaim, and push forward the vision that every innocent human being without exception has a right to life. Even an atheist still ought to have the basic moral sense to see the evil of killing an innocent child. For those who believe in Jesus and His Catholic Church, we have the additional benefit of crystal clear, authoritative magisterial teaching on this, which truly gives us absolutely no place to hide in treating those in the womb as any less valuable than us. Catechism of the Catholic Church 2270, quote, "Human life must be respected and protected absolutely from the moment of conception, meaning fertilization. From the first moment of his existence, a human being must be recognized as having the rights of a person, among which is the inviolable right of every innocent human being to life." End of quote. Also, if you've experienced abortion in some way as a mother, father, sibling, grandparent, etc., there are some great people, great resources available to help you in your healing process. We love you. You are not alone. You can go to lovewillendchildkilling.com, click on the healing tab for more information there. John Horvat, anything jump out to you during the open that you'd like to comment on before we dive into the articles today?
No, I think just, you presented it very well. We are in a situation where the horrendous has become normalized. And, abortion is part of not just one moral issue, but of several moral issues that are also out there, especially, let's say, the corruption of the innocents, as we see in the whole Disney controversy that happened this last week. It's one thing to kill the body of the child, but now we also have the soul of the child being attacked and in a very brutal way. From the very people we would expect to cultivate the innocence of children, and now we're seeing them actually working to the contrary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot that that is wrong when we see this horrible evil of moral relativism growing in our culture, in our civilization more and more. And, you get to that in this first article I want to bring up today. This is back from March 10th, where the title of the article, "Do Not Confirm Judge Jackson. A Supreme Court Justice Must Defend the Highest Law." Now, this is about President Joe Biden's nominee, Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson, which it seems like the votes are there. She's likely to be appointed probably by the end of the week or maybe early next week. But you write here that she enjoys the support of America's most radical pro-abortion groups. She has favored silencing pro-life advocates, saving lives outside abortion clinics, and refers to procured abortion as health care. Most have little doubt that she will be sympathetic to leftist positions on other moral issues. You write, though, however, because she is pro-abortion, she should not be confirmed. It is not just the abortion issue that makes her choice so problematic. It is the legal worldview that approves this moral aberration that is unacceptable. You really drill down in this article underneath, this manifestation of this symptom, this manifestation of evil that is abortion. You drill down to really understand that if we are not founded in something even beyond the Constitution, in a sense, which is the eternal law, the moral law, the natural law, then we're in trouble. Can you explain that a bit more for us?
Right. All law comes from God. All law is a reflection of God's law. And so all our law should be based on God's law, the Ten Commandments, and of course natural law, which is an extension of the Ten Commandments, and is written on the hearts of all people, so that we know this law and we know what's right and wrong because God put it on our souls. But the problem is that that natural law was the foundation of Christian civilization, was the foundation of Christendom. The law based on Christendom was natural law. But with the Enlightenment, that natural law vision of life and morality was abandoned. And today we don't have a natural law as the basis of our law. Even the most conservative Supreme Court justices that are now on the court, they're not natural law judges. They don't believe there is a natural law that is written on the hearts of people, of all people, and there is this absolute right and wrong. And so they sort of substitute natural law with the Constitution, which has some basis on natural law. It's not entirely natural law, but there is some basis for it. And so that's what they use as a substitute, and so it is fallible. You can't trust it, because there are interpretations of that Constitution, this originalist way of looking at things, where the Chief Supreme Court Justice Gorsuch, for example, found homosexual rights in that originalist vision of the Constitution. So we really do not have a very firm foundation for any type of conservative values. So the only way that can happen is if we have a natural law. And one of the reasons why the pro-life movement is so important is that it is a part of natural law. Abortion is very clearly wrong, and it has some foundations on natural law. And so it almost serves as a natural law that we can use as a criteria for a good judge or a bad judge. There are plenty of other issues of natural law, but the mere fact that we do have abortion as one of those definitely helps us make a decision that will assure us a judge that is, at least somehow conforming to that natural law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a helpful article in that, I think we can very well get sucked into that idea of just thinking, we're just supposed to be trying to find a judge that's going to read the Constitution in this originalist, textualist, Antonin Scalia sort of mold. Now, I think if we probably drilled down with him, he certainly would have believed in an eternal law, natural law, moral law. I believe he's made comments in that regard. I don't know 100% sure, but I would ask this, though, about this. I wonder oftentimes when it comes to the presidential debates, different political debates with candidates, why we don't have debates that go beyond just talking about the policies, but really drill down into the worldview, into into the philosophical views that people have. And certainly we ought to be able to ask questions about what they think of natural law. Certainly, why can't we ask that question directly? Why isn't that question ever posed by any of the senators up there in that committee to just say, hey, do you believe in natural law? Is that a thing, or do you totally dismiss it? Would that be a fair question to ask a judge before the committee that would appoint or advise and consent with regard to the nominee? Would that be a fair question to ask?
It's a fair question, and actually, I think it was asked to Justice Thomas by President Biden, of all people, but of course in a contrary sense, because he was against this natural law notion of things. But it should be a very, very obvious question to ask at a hearing. But our legal establishment is so ingrained in this matter. It goes back to the I would say 19th century, that we abandoned this natural law, that, they only saw positive law based on precedent, laws based on, on past laws and past decisions, that, you look at the legal establishments, the law schools and everything, they consider natural law a type of weed that was put into the garden of law, and that, needs to be weeded out because it is an absolute definition of law. So it's not even on the radar of a lot of most law schools, or even in their formation and ways of being. So we are really far away from that natural law vision of society. Even though the founders had a certain vision of natural law, a lot of the founders were based on the early jurists of the English jurists, and they were natural law lawyers and legal experts. So we do have some foundation on natural law, but now it's not nearly what it should be.
Yes, very helpful information here with John Horvat today. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
Are you holding on to an old car or truck because you think dealers won't want it? Then consider donating it to the Station of the Cross Catholic Radio Network. This is a great way to turn your unvalued vehicle into a powerful gift for Catholic radio. You'll be taking part in our evangelization efforts to continue spreading Christ's love throughout the world. Our Lord uses Catholic radio to draw more people to Himself, and one of the best ways to support the Station of the Cross is by contributing to our vehicle donation program. The process is safe and simple. Your generosity will greatly benefit our mission to bring the truths of the Catholic faith to countless listeners. To find out more or to donate your vehicle today, visit thestationofthecross.com or call 1-866-628-CARS. That's thestationofthecross.com or 1-866-628-2277.
Don't let it be said, my dear friends, that you are not praying and sacrificing for souls, especially those in your own family, your loved ones, your beloveds, your friends, your relatives. We must pray. We can't even imagine people losing their souls in hell for all eternity. How could anybody even imagine that? Think about it, and then you'll pray more and more.
That's Sermons for Everyday Living, weekdays from 6 to 7 a.m. Eastern on the Station of the Cross.
Howdy, this is Adrian Fonseca, producer of the Catholic Drive Time Morning Show. We're happy to be with you on the Station of the Cross Catholic Media Network each weekday morning at 7 a.m. We strive to keep you informed and inspired with insightful guests and a look at the breaking news of the day. Join us on the Catholic Drive Time Show every weekday morning at 7 a.m. across the Station of the Cross and the iCatholic Radio app. That's every weekday morning at 7 a.m. We look forward to seeing you there. God love you.
Simple Truth. Jim Havens here on this Current Events Wednesday with our guest today, John Horvat. He is author of Return to Order, From a Frenzied Economy to an Organic Christian Society, Where We've Been, How We Got Here, and Where We Need to Go. You can get it for free at returntoorder.org. He's also with TFP, the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property. Learn more by going to tfp.org. And while you're there, you can find John's article as well as many other great articles. John is writing articles there that we are bringing to you today, some of his, a smattering of some of his recent articles. And let's go to this one now. This one kind of switches gears a bit. It's about this ship Endurance that maybe many people can remember back to. Maybe you've seen a documentary about it or learned about it a long time ago. But the ill-fated voyage of the ship Endurance, you write, never reached its destination. However, the story of its heroic captain, Sir Ernest Shackleton, survives as a stirring inspiration for all time. Now, I hadn't heard this story that recently a South Africa-based icebreaker found the wreckage of the Endurance, and in an amazing state of preservation 106 plus years after the sinking. John, you say this discovery has a symbolic message for a world mired in mediocrity. The quest to find the Endurance contains a lesson that can serve to reawaken sentiments of heroism so needed in these times. Certainly, we do need that in these times, some heroism. So what does this have to do with stirring that up in us? And perhaps you can kind of lead the way and stir up some heroism in us today.
Well, I mean, the story of Shackleton and the Endurance, and they went on to be the first team to cross Antarctica and the South Pole, and if they were the ship was caught in ice, and eventually the ice crushed the ship, and the crew had to get off the ship and wander about for 14 months out in the middle of the sea, and then on islands, and they were finally just amazing story of heroism of endurance on the part of Shackleton, Captain Shackleton, who was just he saved all the members of the crew, and in the midst of all this. So I mean, it was when I saw that, I love the story. I've always loved the story, and when I saw that they found the ship after all these years, I was just glued to the screen. I was just enthralled with the idea that they found this ship. And I said, well, this has to be a metaphor for our day, because his whole life was a metaphor for the times. He was just amazing how much he did, how much courage and heroism he had. So I was very struck by the fact that today heroism is hidden. It's not extolled. People don't like to put it up to the surface. But you do see cases where there are people who are heroic, who all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see heroism arise, whether it be in battle or be, in rescuing people, or you do see things like that happen in our days. And I was struck by how the ship that was 10,000 feet below the sea level, it was in a very cold place, so there are no parasites, so it was preserved. And I think there is preserved in our souls this sentiment, because it is a very human sentiment, and it is a sentiment that can be reawakened if need be. And I said, well, this is a lesson for us. Don't write off heroism. Don't write off this courage that is amazing. We need to look for that in ourselves, and to find it and to exhume it, bring it up to the surface, so that we can learn this lesson from the Endurance. So that was just what I saw. I mean, I thought it was just an irresistible story. I couldn't really. It was just amazing to read that. Yeah,
well, thank you for sharing it. And it certainly is a powerful metaphor. And in this case, it seems to be that it's a group of people they are trying to discover something that could be for the good of society, good of the world, and they're willing to undergo considerable cost to themselves, considerable sacrifice of themselves to do so. And I guess I just want to make a little proposal to those who are listening today that at least a step in the right direction of some heroism that is available for us right now, and that is what we are trying to propose in the Men's March coming up June 11th. It's the weekend before Father's Day, the Saturday of that weekend, June 11th. You can go to themensmarch.com for all the details that we have. We're continuing to flesh out all the details, but it is an important Men's March to end abortion. It's a national men's march to end abortion, but also this time we're including with it the rally portion is for everybody. So it's a rally for personhood. So we're calling for men to meet up with us on that day, June 11th, in Tallahassee, outside of an abortion center there. And from there, we're going to march. It's going to be about a 4-mile march to the State House, the Florida State House, where there we're going to have a rally, lead a rally for the personhood of the preborn. And so we're inviting everybody to come out to the rally, men, women, children, families, everybody come on out. And, it's going to be some cost to ourselves, maybe not that much, but some personal cost to ourselves, depending on who we are, some more than others. But we invite you to come on out wherever you might be and be a part of this. It is a powerful statement that we're going to be making on that day, standing up for those that can't stand up for themselves. We've got to be visible for them on this day, and so it's going to be a big day. We invite you to come to it again, June 11th, and more information at themensmarch.com. Let's switch gears here now to you've got some great articles on what is happening in Ukraine, what is happening with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I go back to an article that you wrote now on March 15th. Now, this was a few weeks after Russia began their military invasion of Ukraine on February 24th. And you write here that the situation is confusing as people struggle to find reasons behind the invasion. Conspiracy theories abound on both sides, like the scenes of battle in Ukraine. Chaos reigns in the minds of so many. However, 4 points can help people better understand what is happening. And I thought this article was extremely helpful. Can you lay out some of those points for us to help us to understand what is actually happening over there beyond just the violence, beyond just the human rights atrocities that are taking place, in terms of the geopolitical, what is taking place and what we need to be aware of, what we're probably not hearing very clearly about when it comes to any sort of mainstream media or anything like that. You really seem to hone in on some important points. Can you lay those out for us?
Right. I mean, the views of President Vladimir Putin are pretty much expressed by his philosophers and his friends, those who he follows. And one of them is Alexander Dugin. And what he proposes is a type of pan-Islamic, pan-Slavic union with mixtures of all sorts of strange philosophies, including fascism and socialism. And so it is a view of governing of society, which is very much contrary, let's say, to the West. He likes to think in terms of what he calls the Eurasian movement, where Europe and Asia, where his part of Europe and Asia form a bloc, and contrary to the West being Europe, United States, and others. And so what you have are two blocs that are clashing in this particular case. And what I see is with the Ukrainian war is that these two blocs become formed, because right now, before the war, Russia was pretty much integrated into the global society. It was pretty much part of the global network, from a commercial, from a government, from all sorts of angles. I mean, everything that's, they have McDonald's, they have all the major corporations, they have all the major oil companies, the accounting firms. And with this particular, with the Ukrainian war, what you saw was that there was this deep division. All of a sudden, everybody cut off Russia. And I think it's part of Putin wants this type of division, and the only way to really to make this division take place is by doing something that will allow the West will leave Russia, leave the East, rather than the East leave the West. And so I think that's what we've seen, that the West is not very courageous. It doesn't want to get involved militarily. So it says, well, we're just going to cut off every possible economic part of the link that we have with you. And in that way, you have this division that takes place, de facto. It's just by default, it takes place. And so we have the preparation for the formation of two blocs, the the West and Russia and China together, and India and Brazil and several other countries that are pretty much are part of the second bloc. So it's a division of blocs that's taking place by this war. This war served as a catalyst, as a trigger for this division, and I think it's directed toward the West, and not the West as the decadent, pro-abortion, pro-homosexual West that they like to portray it, but more the West, the remnants of order that existed, that came from our Christian civilization, that exist in very tiny remnants, but nonetheless are there, that this is a battle that's taking place because of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very, very interesting way to look at it. And, I hadn't considered it from this angle at all. And when I do, well, it kind of makes sense in a way to sort of what we're seeing on the news currently, where it seems like I've always been confused about the fact that it seems like Russia has a whole lot more military might. If they really wanted to crush Ukraine, why didn't they do it right away, or why haven't we seen that? And so I don't know. It just makes me wonder, what is the intention here? What is the play? But if the main move here is that, as you write in the article, Putin saying basically he wants to separate from the West, and this is a way where he can separate from the West with the West doing basically all the separation. So he does this invasion, and then the West pulls out of Russia. The West sanctions Russia. It basically tries to isolate Russia. But if that's what Putin wants, to be isolated from the West, then he didn't have to actively isolate himself from the West. And so if that's the strategy, then it makes sense that he doesn't have to actually like totally take over Ukraine and then hold Ukraine. He can just, the purpose of his invasion would have been to separate himself. He's done that. And now he can sort of start to withdraw or to have some sort of agreement worked out without actually trying to win that war per se. Is that sort of the way you read it? What do you think as you see events unfolding currently?
Well, I mean, I definitely think he wanted to win the war, and if he had, if things had gone different, the resistance had not been so great, he definitely would have taken advantage of that situation. But as it stands now, it's one of the products of this invasion, regardless if you win or lose, was this separation, and so he's definitely taking advantage of that separation that's taking place.
Yeah, and it's a sobering final line in the article, saying that a major geopolitical realignment will take place that could have dramatic consequences and lead to world war. So we got to continue the prayers for sure, and continue whatever good work we're being called to in our lives. Stay faithful, keep striving to do the will of God however we can, but certainly keep praying for the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary is what we need. We're going to get into that when we get back. John wrote a great article, Are the Russians on Board with the Fatima Message? We'll also talk about the consecration that took place, get John's take on that, but some very important points to come. You're going to want to stay tuned. We'll be right back with John Horvat. Stay tuned.
This is Life News Radio. I'm Jim Anderson. Planned Parenthood CEO Alexis McGill-Johnson has given the word that no one needs to hide any longer from the term pro-abortion. After spotting her Washington Post interview, Princeton professor Robert George said it should be amusing to see how long it will be until media accepts the order from high command. But Planned Parenthood's embrace of abortion goes further now. The abortion giant is endorsing California legislation just passed by one assembly committee that uses weak language to open the door and legalize infanticide. This is Life News Radio. Over a dozen U.S. senators are demanding investigation into the deaths of 5 children at D.C.'s Washington Surgery Center. Their letter, obtained by the Daily Wire, addresses D.C. Mayor Bowser and Attorney General Merrick Garland, and also makes it clear to district officials that they expect evidence to be preserved. In related news, the same people who encountered the abortion whistleblower and transferred abortion remains to D.C. police have another D.C. Metro target. They have intercepted over 100 fetal remains from the same D.C. abortion business, and they are now accusing Curtis Bay Medical Waste Services of disposing of abortion victims in a common waste incinerator that generates area electricity. In other stories, Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt may soon sign a bill to ban all abortions. The legislation anticipates a reversal of Roe this summer and is prepared to again challenge Roe if that fails to occur. A 4-month-old child is now thriving after a remarkable and groundbreaking surgery at Cleveland Clinic last year. Surgeons removed with anesthesia a massive pulmonary lesion at 24 weeks gestation. They then returned the child to her mother's womb for a December delivery. For pro-life headlines delivered to your email address daily, sign up at lifenews.com. This has been Life News Radio.
Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with our guest today, John Horvat. He is the author of Return to Order. You can get it for free at returntoorder.org. Also with TFP, the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, tfp.org. You can also find John's articles there as well, along with much more, tfp.org. We're going to get to that article that I mentioned before the break in just a little bit. Are the Russians on board with the Fatima message? The short answer to that is no, by the way, which we're going to dive into. But this first article, in fact, it's John Horvat's most recent article at tfp.org entitled, Why is Biden's SEC Waging War on American Energy? This might be the most vital of all the articles that we're going to look at today for us to understand. And this says here that the administration is also applying sanctions, so not just sanctions on Russia, but sanctions upon the American energy industry to serve the ideology of the climate control left. America cannot win a war if it turns against itself. So you give an example here, John, of a devastating SEC decision. Lay this out for us. Help us to understand. This is so important for us to see what is going on at home right now. We've got this this climate change panic ideology. The Green New Deal was all based on this. They're still trying to push that, but there's no doubt about it. For anybody who's been paying attention, the left and the Biden administration as a vessel for the left, the far left, they are all in on pushing this climate change panic and exploitation to the full, and nothing's going to slow them down. No rising gas prices or anything else. So we're seeing evidence of them continuing to go forward, even in the face of what's going on with the prices of oil and gas going up. Explain this to us. Help us to get the point of this.
Okay, the ruling by the SEC, that's the securities. Securities. I can't think of what it stands for at this point. SEC.
Securities and Exchange Commission.
Exactly, Securities and Exchange Commission. Yes, it's it was something that's set up after the Great Depression to help investors know about the companies in which they're investing in. And so what they do is they, besides other things like audits and things that are certain regulations that keep companies in line, what they do is they make companies reveal information that they think would be pertinent for investors to have a fair view of what's happening in that company, and so that the person is not in some way tricked or defrauded from something. So it generally requires reasonable information that will allow investors to know what's happening and to make their decisions based on what's happening. Well, what they've recently done is a ruling that says that now companies will have to show their footprints, their carbon footprints, their ecological footprints, so that that is something that investors need to know about so that they can make their decisions. Now, this knowing their footprints is not just knowing how much energy they absorb or energy they use, how much materials they use, things that would be very basic, probably something that might even be doable. But they will be requiring the companies to do what they call scope 3 revelations, which ask the companies to estimate and to have, or to give a good idea of not only the energy or the carbon that they use, but the carbon that is used for them to get the materials they need to manufacture or do what they need to do. So for an oil company, that would require the drilling, the use of tankers, all these sort of an enormous amount of information about how they got those goods and the carbon that was used for that purpose. And then on the other side, to say, well, what will happen to those products once they reach the other side on the part of the consumer, so that the consumer also will have to somehow or have to give an idea of that, what is going to be used for those products, so that the company is then saddled with a huge amount of work to try to figure out where things come from and where they go. On the part of oil companies, they will have to find out all the fuel and all the carbon used to produce the oil, and the consumption of the oil when it's eventually burned by these cars, how much it's going to be. And so this is the information they are going to ask of these companies. And so all these are public companies. Obviously, it's not any private company is not under these regulations because they're not on the stock market. But any private company that is in the supply chain or on the other side in the retail will have to provide certain information to these companies so they can have an estimate of what's being used. So you're burdening these companies with an enormous amount of work for a purpose which is not why the SEC was formed. It's not a reasonable thing. It doesn't affect the functioning of the company, the transparency of the company, or any type of corruption that's involved. It's nothing that they are being asked to do is illegal. They're asked to report upon is illegal. It's simply information that they're asking them to bring up, which will weigh heavily upon these companies. So I think it is something very onerous that is part of this war against energy. It's just one part of this war against energies that we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. And you write that this new reporting is meant to intimidate, that this proposed rule will now be open for comments for 60 days before being finalized. Many states, such as West Virginia, have promised to sue the SEC for harassment of their energy industry. However, many rightly note that the damage has already been done. A shot has been fired over the bow of the energy sector. Even if federal courts throw the final rule out, the message has been sent. The war on energy has been declared. Investors beware. You are a target of the Democrats and their extreme green militants. The message is equivalent to sanctions on the industry for doing its job. President Biden is declaring war on American energy in a time of crisis. The administration knows this and nevertheless continues destroying the nation. And I guess that's the line that ought to be really disturbing. The conclusion here: President Biden is declaring war on American energy in a time of crisis. That's not their public relations statement. You're not gonna hear that from the White House. But that's the truth of it, right? They're going to say, oh, prices are going up because of what's going on in Ukraine, the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. They don't want to take any responsibility for that. In the meantime, they are continuing to put forward policies that are not helping, but actually exacerbating the matter all the more. Anything else you want to say on this, as far as they know what they're doing, they're trying to sell it as a good thing, but it is actually harming the country. Why are they doing it? They're just so drunk on their own false ideology here?
Well, definitely it is an ideology. We might even call it a religion, because it does definitely have that aspect. I was just reading a book called Cathonomics by a Catholic economist who worked for the International Monetary Fund and also was a good friend of Jeffrey Sachs, who's a pro-abortion economist. But this was his agenda. This is what he called cathonomics. He says this is the stewardship of the land, the common good, the preferential option for the poor. All these things are integrated with this anti-energy policies that they are promoting. So it is a blueprint. You could see it. You could see it in this particular policy, and you can also see it. You also see it in things like this book that is more of a religious thing.
Yes, yeah. Let's go to the article you wrote. Are the Russians on board with the Fatima message? Again, TFP.org to find John Horvat's articles that we're discussing today. And so, just in summary form, I know there's a lot here in this article, but basically explain to us what is called this Russian conversion narrative, and how it stretches things too far. The facts don't match the script, and then if you would maybe comment on what has taken place since then with this this new consecration that Pope Francis has led, and your thoughts on that.
Okay. Well, I mean, the consecration calls for the conversion of Russia, and they for decades, for a century, we've interpreted that as that Russia is going to convert to the Catholic Church, because Our Lady spoke to Catholics, and conversion means that. So there was never any question about what that meant. But everybody thinks that, well, Russia is just sort of like we are, except they pray in a different language and they use more incense and they have a different liturgy, and they're pretty much on board with everything that we are on board with. They just have some political problems with the Pope, and that's it. But that's not really true, because they consider themselves, they are independent of Rome, and so they are not on board with a lot of things that we believe. And so when you talk to Russian Orthodox about Fatima message, they hate the Fatima message. I mean, they say it does not apply to us. Russia does not need to be consecrated because Russia is already holy, so we don't need to have that consecration. We don't need to convert because we're already Christian, all these kind of things. And so, when we think, well, if we all pray for the conversion of Russia, won't everybody be happy, especially the Russians? No, they're not on board. They don't like the Fatima message, and they're really not on board with the Fatima message. And, and you have to also say that, they have not converted, just like we have not converted. I mean, they're just as rotten as we are in some ways more rotten than we are, and we are in other ways more rotten than they are. But we're all in the same boat. Our Lady spoke to us that she wants the whole world needs to convert. So, if you look at their statistics, they're even if you compare them to Ukraine is a much more religious, especially Catholic Ukraine is a much more religious country than Russia is. If you look at the polling numbers and some studies that have been done, who attends church, who doesn't, these kind of things. If you look at the abortion rate, Russia's abortion rate is 3 times ours. We're bad, but they also have these problems. So we cannot. I think we need to look at that from the point of view of what's actually happening and how the Russians look at the Fatima message. The Fatima message is for their conversion, and we ardently desire their conversion. We want them to be we want them to be united with the Catholic Church, and so that is definitely, and I think that, and that is what Our Lady had in mind. Now, about the consecration took place on March 25th. It is controversial. A lot of people are one way or the other. But I think we need to make a distinction between the words of the consecration and what the consecration means. You can pronounce words of consecration, and they are words of consecration. They can be merely that, words. But consecration means to consecrate, which means to, in the sense of a consecration of a country, means to make sacred or to make it sacred, and it has 2 components. Any consecration has a negative and a positive component. The negative one is to avoid all the things that are not holy. And so it means an amendment of life, an active amendment of life, an avoidance of evil that's out there. And a positive one, to unite oneself with God, with God's law, and in this case, the Immaculate Heart of Mary. So if you have the words without those actions, you have to question, what does that mean? And I think we do have that element here. We have words, and words are the words are, of course, any type of consecration is if it's done, it's a good thing, but will it be effective? That's the question. I think that's what we need to consider.
Yeah, great thoughts here with John Horvat, tfp.org. That's where to find a lot of his good work in terms of the writing of the articles that we are going through today, and much more at tfp.org. But yes, I love the way you end this article saying, now more than ever, the world needs Fatima. It needs repentance. Its only surviving hope is Mary. And it kind of all loops us right back around to where we started today, which is the moral law, the natural law, the eternal law. It comes from one who is eternal, God himself, Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We got to have that disposition of the heart of our Blessed Mother Mary, humble, to have reverence and awe before our Lord, to say yes to him, to receive his graces, to be faithful to those graces. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
What you're offering and giving to me, you deserve to get back, because you're offering more than I can give.
I learned so much through the Stations on the Cross. I listen to the radio station daily, and I absolutely love it.
I was attending the chapel and places like that, and through your programs, I was able to find out how other Protestants had come back into the Catholic Church. God bless the Station of the Cross.
Donate today at thestationofthecross.com.
This is Jesse Romero, host of Jesus 911, heard weekdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm joined each day by a variety of co-hosts like Ruben Nava, Paul Clay, Dan Schneider, and my amazing wife, Anita Romero. We tackle Catholic devotions, spiritual warfare, family life, saving America, and everything in between. Join us each weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific for Jesus 911. You can also catch a bonus encore Saturdays at noon Eastern. God bless you. Keep the faith.
Hello, this is Father Frank Pavone of Priests for Life. Jesus told the Samaritan woman at the well that he would give her water which would become an eternal spring of life within her. He then showed her that the gift of life also requires repenting of evil. As we invite the world to the life of Jesus, let's not be afraid to challenge the world to repent of all those actions that destroy life, starting with abortion. This is Father Frank Pavone, National Director of Priests for Life.
As a nonprofit lay organization financially independent from your diocese, our apostolate is listener-supported. Through your generosity, we are able to inspire countless listeners with the gospel message and help lead them to a parish to be spiritually nourished by the sacraments. The Station of the Cross thanks our supporters who have enabled us to broadcast Catholic programs for more than 20 years. Thank you for your continued support, and may God bless you and your family.
Welcome back to The Simple Truth. Jim Havens here with our guest today, John Horvat, author of Return to Order. You can get it for free at returntoorder.org. Also with TFP, the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, TFP.org. I also want to put the phone number out there. We always love to hear from you if you have any questions or comments. So I'm going to put it out there, and this is the time to call if you want to sneak one in before the end of the show. The number is 1-877-511-5483. That's 1-877-511-5483. But I do want to bring in the last article that I have here that you've written here, John Horvat from TFP.org. Is there a future for chit-chat checkouts? That's a mouthful. And you know, John, you strike me as I read your articles, really appreciate it, really appreciate you as a real clear thinker. You always come up with points that are very insightful, things that hadn't occurred to me. And this entire article, I had no idea about this. And it also shows me that you are not, you're seeing news items from non-mainstream areas. I don't know how you know about this Dutch supermarket chain, Jumbo, but you're telling us all about it, and I'm so glad that you are. You're saying some people are enjoying chatting while paying for their goods, as shopping has become so impersonal with scarcely a chance to interact with others. For some people, something important is missing, and so this Jumbo, this Dutch supermarket chain, recently introduced slow checkouts. Instead of speeding things up, they want to slow it down. They discovered some people enjoy chatting while paying for their goods. The added personal touch is helping many people, especially the elderly, to deal with loneliness. And so this is happening with other supermarket chains, it seems like, as well. This other one having a special checkout lanes for people who want to socialize. So I guess, we haven't seen that yet in the States. We're still going more and more automated checkouts and trying to speed things up for everybody. But they want to slow it down. I guess people are there's been a reaction against the automation and saying, we actually enjoy talking to one another sometimes, and we're willing to have a little bit less time, or we're able to take a little bit more time. We're willing to do that. We prefer that, in fact. And there's that option for people who do prefer that, to slow it down and go into a slower lane where they can chit chat. This is very interesting that this is happening. And what does it tell us about our humanity? It's a great article to really ponder. John, what more would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, it's an amazing story. I never imagined it could exist, but it does, and it's in France, in the Carrefour supermarket chain. They call them the blah 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 guichet, which is blah blah blah. You could speak, you could talk, and then you also have chit chat lanes as well. And what it says is that we are social beings. We like to talk. We like to communicate. And modern society hates the idea of communication. Self-service is saying, well, you can go from one part of the country to the other and never talk to a single person. You can all do it. So you can get your gas, without talking to a person. You could do everything without talking to a person, or minimal talking to people. And because we are social beings, made by God to be social beings, we like to talk to people, and it does, and it helps us live a balanced life. And so there was this need. They found this need in Europe, and then that they found that people like to talk to people. And so they said, well, why don't we set up a lane? And they set up one lane in each one of these in each supermarket, where people could just talk and chit chat with the cashier, and and without feeling the pressure to leave as soon as possible. And it took off, and it really flourished, and people really liked it. And it made the customer feel wanted. It made them feel it gave them some idea of affection. And what I thought was really very interesting was the fact that it made the worker feel useful. One of the workers said, I was just so exhausted by the other system, and after a whole day on the chit chat lane, I feel like I'm part owner of the company or of the supermarket, because I'm talking with people, I'm communicating with them. I feel I have a certain importance. I'm not just a tool or instrument there. So I think that does have some application to even what Catholic ways of looking at things from the point of view of commerce, that it does have that human element that is such an essential part of economy that we have taken out, and that needs to be put back in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very well said. Yeah, that part jumped out to me as well, the unexpected benefit for the cashiers, and that made a lot of sense. I was hoping we would have time to raise this, and I think it maybe goes along with this article, and that is in your book, Return to Order. Again, people can get that for free, returntoorder.org. I'm still working my way through it, enjoying it very much, but one of the main themes that you bring through in your writing here is something called frenetic intemperance. Can you explain to us what that is and why we ought to be aware of it?
Yeah, I think our economy, one of the big problems of our economy is it's out of balance. A lot of people like to just say, well, the economy in itself is wrong. We need to have a more socialist way of looking at things. And I, of course, think that's entirely wrong. A free market economy is very much in accordance with Catholic teaching. There's nothing wrong with the free market economy, but there is something wrong when that free market becomes frenzied and out of balance, where people want to do everything instantly, effortlessly, not considering the consequences of things. And I think this is what has really messed up our modern economy. That the cycles of boom and bust are largely because we are intemperate, and we are frenetically intemperate. We throw things out of balance and pay the consequences of it. A real Catholic economy is something that is balanced. It has natural, let's say, braking systems that are very social, like the family or the community, or the church, or there are a lot of things that temper down the economy, temper the passions, so that they are not a frenetic, and they do not seek after just this intemperate way of doing things. So I think that's our big problem today is this frenetic intemperance that doesn't allow us allow that human element to exist in economy that needs to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we're kind of soaking in this culture that has this problem, what would you advise for us, I guess, individually or as far as our families go? How can we push back on this to make sure that we are being temperate, we have things in right order in our own lives and the lives of our families?
That's a good question. I think we definitely need to put our priorities in order, put our priorities there, that the family is one of the most important elements of economy, because it is the basic economic unit as well as the basic social unit of society. I think the more we can live our Catholic lives of virtue, the more we center ourselves on Christ and the Church, and living that Catholic witness and our love for God and fighting for God in society, on the public square, fighting against abortion, against same-sex marriage, against all these evils that are coming in, the more we will be. We will have that balance. We will have that fortitude. We'll have the cardinal virtues that are so necessary for economy a real good economy to take place.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very, very good. Any final words of wisdom you'd like to share with us today in just our final minute, about 30 seconds to go?
Well, I was very impressed by your description of the march that you're holding in Tallahassee. I really was glad to hear about that. I think that is an amazing initiative. It is like the endurance, because sometimes you have to reach down and find that courage to appear in the public square and say, I will be there, even though people will see me. The human respect that comes from being out in the public and defending these issues. So, I think that is excellent. The more we do that, the better. So keep up the good work.
Yes, thank you, John. Thank you for saying that. And folks can learn more about that at themensmarch.com. Also, get Return to Order. It's free over at returntoorder.org. Also, check out tfp.org. The articles there and much more. But John Horvat, a great blessing to have you with us today. God bless you, your family, all your good work.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it immensely.